I know I got a shadow up there. You're just going to have to bear with me. We don't have much light in here. But I found out where the center was, and then I don't want to mark anything on here. I've got a mark up here at 58.5. And I've got a little mark on the edge of the table. I've got a level. I'm going to plumb this up from the mark. This is called plumb. When you level up and down. When you level left to right, you can say level or horizontal. This is vertical, and this is called plumb. When somebody says plumb, you know what they'll mean now, right? Okay. That's where the center of the TV, and I'm just going to put C there, is where the center of that bracket's going to go. Okay? Or actually, the bottom edge of that bracket, and that's where the center of the TV. I haven't figured out anything yet. I've got to now locate the studs so I can figure out where to put this bracket. You know? I'm not sure exactly yet, because the stud might be here, it might be there. It could be right there, so I may have to put it over like that, or make a determination, do I put it over here? You know what I mean? So I still have, this is the bottom edge of that, see, like that. All right? So I still got to figure out, do I want it here, there, over here, way over here. So the next step is I've got to locate some studs in the wall. Look at all that light now. That's because it's a drop light. I'm holding it up in my hand and working the camera with the other. Real professional here, huh? Okay, now I'm going to move that table. I can move that table now because I already figured out the center and I've got my mark up on the wall and all that. So now I can get rid of this table. Time to find some studs. There's the center of where we want the TV. And there's the bottom of where that bracket's going to go. I just put a little piece of masking tape here. You probably can't see it very well, but that's all right. I look down here and I see I've got a couple plugs there. And more than likely, there's going to be a stud. Where do you suppose there's going to be a stud? Probably going to be one right there, huh? That's the first thing I'm going to check. And then there's probably another stud right on that edge, I'm guessing. I haven't even measured it out yet. But I kind of think that might be the case. All right? Because 16-inch centers, if I hold my tape and see this red mark on my tape, on a tape measure incidentally, every 16 inches you're going to see the number is going to be red. If you didn't remember that, if you've never known that before, now you do. Because lots of times everything's 16-inch on center, and when framers frame a wall, they pull their tapes every 16 inches and they mark it. Way easier to find those marks that way, okay? If you didn't think of anything and remember anything about this, you just learned how to read a tape measure where your 16-inch centers are, didn't you? Okay, so I got a good idea. There's a stud right there. Hear that? That sounds kind of hollow. And that sounds a little bit higher pitched. Hollow. Higher pitched, solid. Higher pitched, solid. That's kind of hollow right in there. High, hollow. See? But I'm still gonna probe around. I'm gonna undo this, and instantly, before I do that, I'm gonna shut the power off here because I'm gonna be working on this plug after a while anyway. So that's one thing I'm gonna do, is locate these studs. Now there's another way you can locate those studs too. You remember? Take your trusty stud finder, and you can check that way too and see if there's studs there, okay? Because the last thing I want to do is get up high on the wall and start marking up the walls and then find out I'm doing it in the wrong space, okay? I don't have to show you how to use this stud finder, do I? You know, I've got some videos on that. And the one thing I would stress on your stud finder, you don't use that very often. So what happens is the battery usually goes dead after a while. And if you got a bum battery like I do right now, see, it's not coming on. And every once in a while, okay, now I got it to work. And I know there's a stud right in there. But I've got to clear it and go this way. And see, it's not really working properly. There it goes. It's not working all the way because the battery's not a fresh battery. So if you ever have a problem with that on your stud finder, make sure you put in a new battery, because the last thing you want is for you to think that there's a stud in a certain point on a wall and then mark that stud, or think that, okay, I've got a blank wall cavity, so I'm going to cut in a light switch there, and you cut in, son of a gun, there's a stud right in your way because your stud finder didn't really find it properly because the battery was low. Okay, that's one important thing you've got to remember about a stud finder. Now the good thing about this wall bracket is when I put this up there, I can hide some mistakes. If I think the stud is right there and I poked a hole in there and, oh, it's over here a little bit, well, I may have to slide this over a little bit, but I've got a lot more leeway to find the stud here if I'm measuring and trying to find the stud in this location behind this bracket, because if I make a mistake, this bracket's going to cover it up, right? But if you have a small TV with just one bracket assembly that just gets bolted to one stud, you got to be on. That's the center of the TV. Okay? Now, you might think, oh, okay, just put the bracket right in the center like that. Well, I can't do that, can I? Because it's only 8 inches from here over. So that means I'm going to have my bracket assembly like from there to the right, because that's where the holes are, right? Or I'm going to have to come this way. And once I have this, if I have it over here, let's say, remember the arm up here will swivel over to a little bit, and the TV, the center of the TV could be about right there. Then I'll have to slide on the back side of the TV over, all the way over, so that I can take the TV and scoot it that way, right? I would rather do that because going that way is where the dining room is. So see, if I was like right here, I could still make the middle of the TV because the swivel would be slid over a little bit. I could take this arm that goes on here, flip it over this way, and then push it over even further. But remember, if I do that, what's going to happen? The TV is going to be about here. When you come walking in from the main door, you're going to see this bracket assembly sticking out to the right side of the TV. I don't want that, do I? That's why you got to think about your project, because if I have it over here, this may pooch out beyond the TV, but yet I don't think it's going to. But even if it does, I really don't have much choice with that. But there's a door over here, a back door. So it's only about 5 or 6 feet away from this edge. So when people come walking in and they see the nice TV, they're not going to see this bracket assembly sticking out beyond it. You follow? So I think that's what I'm going to have to do. But before I do that, I'm just going to kind of look at the whole assembly on the back side of the TV to convince myself this is where I want to put it.